Welcome to my good bad brain. I'm a normal person, so I'm insane. I've got depression and ADHD, but I'm doing better since I medicated me. I'm still not always sure whether I exist or what being a person even really is, but I figured out a long time ago that being alive is beautiful.
Hello, it's me. It's Jarrett. I'm the one with the good bad brain. I mean, I guess we all have those. Just chilling. A little late on this ep, that's how it goes. Been kind of swamped with some projects, and yesterday's sort of last minute, I asked my friend to do a conversation with me, my friend Koda, who is my good friend in real life. I'm friends with everybody on this thing, I guess, in real life, but Koda's somebody I actually see a lot. I talk about that. I'm not gonna make this intro too long because I kind of do an intro while I'm with him. And I'm just going to let it be that. The only thing we don't mention that I wanted to mention here, I forgot, was like Koda is the one who made the theme song with me. I had this idea for like a tune and some lyrics, and he's the one who made it into an actual song. So thank you, Koda, for that. He makes music and is just a beautiful soul. He's like a real artist who's been through some stuff and continues just getting through in beautiful ways. And he's like just my dear, dear friend. He's like practically family. And we talk about, a lot of stuff. This one has a lot to do with like sort of societal influence and over our well-being. And basically the importance of listening to those who are hurting. And, this idea that maybe those of us who are more sensitive and feeling a lot about how fucked up things seem to be, maybe we're not always the ones who are wrong. Maybe there's some stuff that's wrong in the universe. And either way, that it seems important to listen to those who are hurting and not like put all of the burden on them like they're so fucked up and they should just fix it on their own. I'm just gonna stop now and we'll do we'll get into it. Thank you so much for listening and supporting. If you support us on Patreon, that's so fucking huge. It really is just like makes this thing possible. And also, if you can't do that and don't feel like doing that or whatever, but you feel like I want to support the podcast in another way, please do consider giving us a 5-star review on iTunes. It's really helpful with charting or whatever and seeming cool and popular and algorithms, I guess. I don't know. It just feels nice. It's nice. All right, that's it. I'm going to get into the interview now with my dear, dear, dear friend, the absolutely wonderful Koda. Bye. Don't feel weird. Now we're recording. Hi, everybody.
Wow. Oh, my God.
So, I might not do a solo intro to this. Usually I have like a solo intro, but this one feels more like a hybrid between my solo eps and not, because it was so like spur of the moment. I'm joined by Koda today. Thank you,
Hello.
Koda. I still call you Koda all the time.
That's fine. That's what like my mom calls me. So
really?
Yeah.
Do people know, is your real name like public?
Oh yeah. I mean, some people, some people they've
Jordan.
Yeah, like they're being like clever or something. They're like, oh, Jordan. Like I know, which is so. I mean, when I say some people, it's like 5 people on YouTube
who are like they know your real name.
Yeah,
that's funny. Koda's my really good friend. So this is following. I mean, I guess most of the people on this podcast I'm like pretty good friends with, or friend. I mean, I've known everybody personally prior to them being guests so far. But you've joined like Miles as like, and a few other people who are like people I see like almost every day or multiple times a week.
Yeah.
Regularly. So thank you for doing this. But cutting to the chase a little bit, I guess, I was like, basically I was shooting all last week and doing all this project stuff that's been great, like fun, worky stuff, but directing, but made it hard to schedule interviews with people. So I've been doing these solo eps, and I was just going to do another one today until I have some people I'm going to record this week interviews with. But last minute, I was like, it would be nice to do an interview again. And you posted something online today that I'm just going to read because it was. I'm sorry, I'm really rehashing this story for you in the room. It's awkward, but because it impacted me, and it was on the heels of some other stuff going on in my life. And it seemed like such a fucking good subject to talk about for today's podcast. You released a new song today. Good song, by the way.
Thank you.
Koda's a musician. Very good musician. I was in one of your music videos. Very honored to be in the music video.
Jared was the star of Curse.
Of course. I actually didn't get to listen to this song yet today because I listened to it in the video.
It's trash.
It's trash. But I didn't want to. I have a weird thing where like I want to listen to it on good sound, and my car got broken into, and like the only thing they took was my like $30 Bluetooth speaker.
It's insane.
So weird.
Not the Punisher comics.
No, the Punisher comics were left. It was that morning. That was the next morning. Koda gave me a bunch of Punisher comics.
Sad.
They're
not mine. They were just here at the house.
They were here. Well, they were common law comics.
Yeah.
You know? They lived with you long enough that you are now joined. Koda wrote, the burden to get well should not be placed entirely on those who suffer. There's a universal thread that ails all of us, unwittingly or not. Listen to the people who are hurting, who struggle to get out of bed, who are haunted, which I think is true. And in the context of that, I'll just say for me, part of why it meant a lot to me was a few things. I had an argument with my girlfriend about something. Basically, something had hurt her feelings, and I was kind of part of it, and my immediate instinct was to explain how her feelings were wrong, basically, was to explain how she just misunderstood the context of what happened, and that if she just understood that, then those feelings wouldn't hurt. And as we got deeper into this silly argument, it's not silly, I guess, because it was hurtful. She communicated it wasn't even hurtful that I was part of something hurtful. It was that like when she said it was hurtful, I was like, I didn't believe her and I wouldn't listen. And I was reflecting on that a lot. Like that got through to me. And she was like, and that's commonly what happens between us. And there's a lot of other aspects that I'm starting to understand why I react this way, from like old childhood wounds of defensiveness where you can never be wrong, to ADHD things of like reaction to reactions of symptoms. It's a common ADHD thing I learned in relationship. But that fundamental idea, something I glibly have said on this podcast a lot, like as if it's the most obvious thing in the world in a political context, like just listen to people, like just listen to what they want. It's not hard to not hurt people's feelings. Like with a pronoun preference or something like that, with gender identity, like that even being an issue, I'm always glibly like, what the fuck is wrong with people? You can't just listen to what people want and try to not be an asshole. And it was amazing to have that turned on me and go like, oh, fuck. Like the person closest to me who I would think that I love the most, that I'm most patient, most trying with, I'm not doing it. And I'll stop monologuing this intro pretty soon. But like, I read what you wrote about we should listen to the people who are hurting at the same time, or right after I read this article in The Guardian it's from like the spring, but the way the internet works, like it came on my Facebook feed somehow and I went and read it by this woman who grew up in America in something, it sounded like kind of rural and white. And she had moved to Turkey when she was 30 as a writer. And like this, basically realizing the falsehood of American innocence, like looking at like how it looks in the rest of the world. And only from a position of extreme like privilege and power can you like think of yourself as like, oh, we're always the heroes of the story, that we are the end of civilization, that we have figured it all out. And then some of these other places of the world that like living there, it would like recontextualize stuff for her. And so I was thinking about that and thinking about like how then immediately in my life, the like deep seated thread of like white supremacy, white male supremacy, and I'm the hero and I'm trying to be a good person. So that means I'm a good person all the time, results in this thing of like somebody tells you that you hurt them or that you're part of something hurtful who you care about. And instead of your reaction being listen and like register what they say, it was to like explain how they were wrong. Like they were, no. If you just understand this, then it'll be fine. And how that truly like immediately translates to what you put up about like, listen to the people who are hurting, like how much our society, I think you said like puts the burden of healing on the hurt person and doesn't recognize like maybe there's something wrong with the system or the universe or something. I don't know. I interpret it a way you said it as like almost like or maybe I just had this thought now. I don't know. Maybe people who are hurting really bad, can't get out of bed, maybe instead of thinking like, oh, there's something fucking wrong with them, like that they can't keep up with the rest of the reality. Like maybe we should treat them more like canaries in a coal mine and be like, hey, something is wrong with this if people are like, can't even live, you know?
Right. Exactly. I mean, that's kind of what I was hinting at. And also like going back to the thing about, that argument and just, it's not like, it's a very like human reaction to be like, to want to have a dialogue about something. Like when somebody comes to you with something, somebody comes to you and they're like, I'm hurting and here's why. Like normal interactions between people are like a conversation. So like, of course you would want to add context
right
to the situation, like from your perspective. That's like a normal thing, I guess.
Yeah.
But oftentimes it's not a conversation. Like,
I think that's the thing. I think you feel like it's a conversation. What I realize is like paying attention to where's my priority lie in the response to somebody saying I'm hurt, and especially if they say and you hurt me, is like, is my priority in contextualizing things so you understand that actually you shouldn't be hurt, or is my priority in like comforting you first? And we ended it as we dialogued, as I like was realizing what was going on. She was like, maybe the principle in the future could be like CQL, comfort, query, listen. And I was like, that's pretty fucking useful.
that's
like,
really good. Yeah.
Prioritizing in that way is like, maybe if somebody tells you they're hurt or hurting, like first comfort, let's make that the first priority. Just being like triage, right? Like let's, instead of like immediately going to here's why that doesn't make sense and blah 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 and I'm wrong, is like, and I'm not wrong, I can't be wrong because I was trying. Well, let's just comfort somebody who's hurting and like actually give a shit, and then like asking questions and then actually listening, and then maybe somewhere down the line would come contextualizing and mutual understanding.
Right. Yeah.
But like as a society, I don't know, as a society that's like, well, because then I cut us off when we were talking before to get onto this thing, and I don't want to like lose that because I think about it all the time. What were you saying right before? It was like just about that, like putting the burden on the hurt.
Yeah.
About like, oh, because we were saying how scary it is to put anything out in the universe, because you're like, will that be the thing that somebody remembers that like makes them kill themselves or something like that? And my immediate response was like, well, yeah, ultimately on some level, ultimately that can't be the responsibility of anybody but the person who does the wounding of themselves, the harming. That was my response. And like we agree as a society, like if somebody goes out and kills someone else, no matter how bad their life was, whatever drove them to do it, ultimately the responsibility lies with them when they cross that threshold. And we go like, okay, well, that's not okay. Unless they're children. But I thought that was interesting. I feel like I'm constantly writing that line, both in giving advice and also with myself, of like constantly writing that line of taking responsibility without blaming victims, you know?
Right.
And I don't know, what do you think? I don't know, what do you think about that? Like where do we go? Like because I don't want to, I'm never interested in saying like, just fucking suck it up, you know, like fucking deal with it.
Right.
Your whatever bullshit nobody fucking cares. Cause that's like, I don't believe in that stuff. Even if I use that language with myself sometimes in sort of like almost a charactery way, like self-talking to get through workouts or something like that. Like, I don't believe that for other people. I do believe people care. And I don't believe the answer is just suck it up. I think you have to pay attention to what hurts and try to like figure out why and try to fix it. Not just play through it. But like, also I want to empower people to like realize that they have the tools to fix themselves or heal themselves. Not just go, oh, that's just how it is. You've been victimized. Things happen to you and it sucks. And
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Well, it's really scary too, to think that like people who would want to harm themselves could be right about things, that things are like so bad that you would want to hurt yourself.
Right.
Like that just seems it's such like a scary thing for the majority of people. You know, it's like your partner coming to you and saying like, oh, the thing you said to me last night like really, really hurt me. You know,
Yeah.
it's like the same thing.
Oh, that's really interesting.
And so it's like, I don't know. It's just a weird thought. I struggle with this all the time where I'm like, yeah, I have all these like really negative thoughts about certain like systems that like govern the way we live and like certain like societal norms that we have and like just all of this like wrongdoing and suffering in the world. And I like dwell on that a lot. And then at the same time, I am like, well, yeah, I should like seek help and like work out all this like internal shit and like take medication that kind of like levels me out so I'm not like dwelling on all the evil in the world. But like that doesn't make it go away. Like there is so much burden placed on like sad or lonely or depressed people of like it's all on you to get better, and there's rarely any like reflection about, because that's scary. That's like scary to think that like everything around us could actually be making like the suicide rate go up, you know? And yet it is happening. It can't all just be like, I mean, maybe, I guess it could be like some chemical thing that's happening because of like the food that we eat or whatever that's like causing more people to have. But like at the same time, it's like there are horrible things happening all over the world. I mean, I know people like cite like the 24-hour news cycle,
right,
and all these things, and like, yes, like overall like violence is going down, there's less conflict and whatever,
more
but
literacy, like, more like healthcare, more food. I mean, that stuff's all better.
Yeah, like a lot of things are getting better, but a lot of things are like getting so much worse in like ways that we don't even know how to like fully like quantify or understand.
Right.
And I feel like the people who suffer from all sorts of mental ailments, they feel it. They like know that shit is fucked up, you know, to
what's
put it so plainly
is that's me. I repeat this a lot on this podcast, and I'll repeat it again, but just like this idea that felt so radical to me, that like feelings are valid. Like feelings can never be invalid. Like your response to your feelings can be maybe invalid, or you can like adjust, like maybe you're reacting the wrong way to something, or like you're excusing, you can't like excuse any behavior because you felt a way or whatever.
Right. But so much of the mental health debate is like framed around like invalidating those feelings, or at least in like the general like like I don't think like mental health professionals are saying that, but like the broader like cultural thing, it's like, I don't know, it's almost like a weird way to like sweep it under the rug. It's like, oh, we figured out that like we can just like call people up and like tell them that we love them and like put them on medication and send them to a therapist and they can work out all these personal problems, and then we can continue to like just do all this other fucked up shit and like continue to like push like just vapid like rampant consumerism and like ads down your fucking throat 24/7 and like,
dude, I think this is true. Also, you're saying is true politically in like political I guess like discourse, in the sense of like cultural political discourse, like political correctness or something, I guess, in the sense of like, I think it's a problem I feel like I see a lot on like, it's like, I mean, woke is like a term that's gone up, like fake woke, like where you learn the language that you're supposed to use now, but then like male feminist kind of vibes of like, you learn the language you're supposed to use, but it's like you don't actually reflect on like I guess what I was thinking about today, like where does like a mix of whatever German type A like fascist like stoicism from my mom and general American exceptionalism and like white male heteronormative supremacy, all these things like mixed into like how I react in interpersonal relationships, where I'm like, I can't be wrong, you know? And xenophobia, or like just any kind of like, there's racism is like part of our culture. It's also part of, I think, our limbic system to a certain degree of like, if you're some of your experiences, if you haven't been around people that are different from you much in your life, it's like understandable that you would have some limbic response that is like concerned or heightened or different when you're around people who are different than you. If you don't acknowledge that and like deal with that and just like to say things like, I don't see color, or like, oh, everyone's just equal to me, which is insane.
Yeah.
Then it doesn't matter how woke your like language is or whatever, or how like it's not fucking help. You're perpetuating the problem on some level.
Yeah.
And I think like this, to me, I'm bringing that up as like in response. I think that's part of these larger social norms that like, as I think, yes, as depression and things like that. It's interesting because on this podcast, I become such a proponent because of my personal experiences with medication that I'm like, as an option, like to try that appropriate medication, I see now can be very helpful.
Right.
But we both have experienced plenty of people around us and in ourselves, I think, we're like improper medication or over medication with no reflection and no personal work, no exercise or looking at your diet and other inputs that make up all the chemicals in your brain, your relationships and your relationship patterns and what you do. And I think most importantly, like just your fucking wounds that you are still acting in service of, like your deep childhood wounds that like kind of dictate everything fucked up you do.
Oh yeah.
That like, if you're not doing any of that, then you are just numb. I mean, this is my problem with like talking to certain political opinions, right? If like somebody has like any kind of right in the current incarnation of this country, like conservative opinions,
yeah,
I feel like there's no real conversation to be had about like political theory because it's so obviously rooted in like wounds, like personal wounds,
yeah,
that like you want to just sit down and talk to them. I mean, you don't want to, but you know what I mean? Like that's that's like, you're like, I don't have fucking time for that shit.
Yeah.
Which is again, in counter this thing of like, if somebody's fucked up, like we say it's incumbent on them to fix it. Frankly, the problem of male toxicity and like, you know, in this country is a problem that men have to work out for themselves. Like, but if we do, I don't know, I think about that all the time. Like if you do just leave it to themselves to work it out, like they're going to kill everybody before like they do.
Yeah.
And so it's like, on the one hand, it's like, it's not our problem. It shouldn't be the problem of other people to work on my toxicity. But like looking at what other white men do and are capable of, you're like, unless society tries to help figure it out and understand them and let them know like they can be better,
right?
Like they're going to kill everybody.
Yeah.
So you're like, weigh these things of like, yeah, in terms of justice, like prodigal son ideas here, basically.
Right.
Like, no, they don't deserve to be helped. Like they're a dangerous drain on everybody around them.
Yeah.
But like, they'll kill everybody if we don't. So what do you do with that?
Right. And that's also like, I mean, that kind of like, I think speaks volumes about myself, you know, to struggle, or just like everyone, I guess, to like struggle with that level of like empathy,
right,
for like people that are so toxic.
Well, we were just talking about this,
like demanding it, you know, for myself or for people like me, you know.
Yeah.
And then
well,
I'm
we
just
were
like,
talking this right before because we do these characters all the time with each other.
Yeah,
like I do them with my girlfriend. I do them with you. We do them these horrible characters. We do them a lot when we're video gaming, especially.
Yeah,
Koda's, by the way, like very good at video game like stream voices, which sounds like so specific and silly. But
really
like
stupid.
It's unfair because you have.
I'm
like,
not gonna do it.
I don't want you to do it. I'm not making you do it. I'm not gonna make you do it. There's like you have professional sound recording equipment that you game with, so it's like you can just lean into that mic when you're on it and it sounds like, hello, what's up guys? But but I do think there's validity to this thing of like seeing so much horrible shit that these characters just live in you and you like understand them because we share like basically cishet male like nervous systems. So it's like I feel like when I see men being horrible, it's not like I don't know where it comes from. You know?
Yeah.
I'm like, I know where that lives in you.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes me also go like, so I know what's hurting and I know why you're doing that. You might not want to look at it or ever acknowledge it. You'll say like, nah, fuck no, I don't have those fucking problems forever. But like, I know, because I feel like on some level, if you have testosterone in your blood, you know what it does, you know?
Yeah.
Like there's a sympathy and also like a further disgust because you understand it, because you can embody it so immediately if you want to.
Yeah, and I often like fear for like myself. I think about certain events that happen in my life, or like certain people that were a part of my life, and like just all these like stars kind of aligned to like make me the person I am today, and I can totally see how I could have like stayed in South Carolina and been like someone just very different.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what it is that like made me kind of like reject all of these like kind of like far right, like hypocritical, like Christian ideals and and this and that, and like,
dude, that's when I think about sometimes when I was like 12 or 13, I remember like having feeling like I was friend zoned, you know what I mean? Like there was like a girl I had a crush on, I just want to be my friend. I was like, and then seeing that happen to another guy and being like 12 or 13 and being like, what a bitch, you know, like what a bitch, she's keeping him, how she knows what she's doing, blah blah blah. And then you grow up a little bit, like 5 seconds of growth, and you go like, oh, no. If you're in a situation where you're uncomfortable and you know like the feelings you have for someone are not reciprocated and it makes you very uncomfortable, like it's fine to say, I like you a lot and it makes me so uncomfortable to be around that I think I should stop doing this because it's like self-flagellating for me, and it just, you know, it's imbalanced and it's going to be bad for me. So I know I sound like an asshole, but I don't think I can be friends with you anymore, and just leave the situation. Like that's your responsibility, like to be able to do that.
Yeah.
It's not somebody withholding sex from you and fucking with you and manipulating with you.
Yeah.
Like that's not real. That's something like an 11-year-old thinks. That's something like a baby thinks who's hungry and screams because they didn't get the cookies they want. You know what I mean? Like you mature and realize, oh, it's not just me. There's human beings who are sovereign beings with their own feelings and thoughts. And all I have control over is what I do.
Right.
My point is like you mature, like something in us at least clicks at some point. And I think that's maybe part of the root of like looking at heinous people who like still have these childish ideas of like selfishness or whatever.
Right.
That you're like, why didn't
like
you grow up?
Charlie Kirks and all those guys, and
why
Jordan
didn't you
Peterson's,
figure
all
out
these,
your
like, kind of
childish
disturbing,
view of the universe? This thing where like your brain grew, like your intellect and your body of things that you'd read and your vocabulary that grew, but your basic limbic drive didn't. This feeling of inadequacy and embarrassment related to your penis feelings.
Well, I think a lot of the reason that that's able to happen so easily is because like so much of so much of our societal structure is like rooted in that like patriarchy, you know, like
yes, this is what I mean.
Like a huge portion of
yes,
the books that you're reading are by other white men who also never grew out of that, you know. It's like, yeah,
there's a fundamental like relaxation and acceptance of childish like male tendencies and even like a lionizing of them.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I've been thinking of that so much, like with this Kaepernick stuff and like the people who want to do like Pat Tillman, that was a real hero. Like the guy who was a football player who like gave up being a football player to join the army.
Right.
And then got killed by friendly fire.
Right.
And you're like, that guy specifically said he didn't want to ever be used as like propaganda.
Yeah.
His widow is saying the same thing. But like this idea that like instinctively the nation goes like this, a certain side of the nation is like, even on the liberal side is like, well, let's never fuck with the troops. No, the troops are noble no matter what.
Yeah.
And you're like, on some level, fundamentally, that's a very boy thought to be like, because killing is dope, because like fighting is dope. Like, and there's truly nothing braver you can do than go where you might die. And it's like, what if that's not true? Like, you know what I mean? Only a society that's like raised by dumb fucking dudes who never go like, oh, actually, I don't think the bravest thing I can do is like love somebody for real. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. To like
trust
open
and-
myself like fully to another human being and like
maybe the bravest thing I can do is
connect.
like reject the societal nonsense I've been given forever that says I have to do these things to be acceptable and earn my place on the planet. And maybe the bravest thing you do is just be like, okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or like to listen to
Yeah.
people who are rejecting all of these norms, you know.
Like that. That's so fucking weird. Just that those values, those fucked up things are like fine. They're heroic, but like these other ones, I don't know. I guess I'm saying I've just come around to something very obvious, but it's just interesting. It's important to like acknowledge, to like look at it. And even that, like if you can put it like metaphorically in the like larger conversation into metaphors around stupid fucking values, like my battle with depression, you know, you're just fighting, you're in there slugging it out every day. It's like, then it's, you know, instead of like, I don't know what your conversation with it, your affliction with it, you're like, because it definitely doesn't feel like some days I guess I can put it into the metaphor, the context of like you're fighting your depression. You're like, I don't want to fucking give into this thing. And that's like noble to some degree. But like, I don't know. It is something more insidious. What you said earlier about like, I don't know, man. Changing my Twitter around, like unfollowing everything except Metamucil on Twitter. Has
amazing.
Like fundamentally improved my life. Like truly, like in the last month or so since I did it. Like I ingest language differently. Every day I still get the news. I still like find out what's going on.
Yeah.
But it's not like the way, it's not the information that's inherently horrible. It's like the way we're communicating it to each other and ourselves. And the way we all like scream and like have to get like the hottest take so people pay attention to it, or the cleverest one or the funniest one, you know, or something.
Yeah.
Like it's like there's this race to be like on the people who are like if you and I, right, we see the world and we see this like poison every day, this horrible thing. It becomes like a race, like who can express how poisonous it is the best, who can like show their pain the best, their like disgust the best. And quite frankly, like that doesn't help you fix the problem in yourself or other people. Like I really think that like, you know what I mean? It's like if you, I always use this metaphor for myself in terms of like my mental or psychic wounds too, is like if you cut your arm like bad, if you like fell on a rock and cut your arm or something like bad, and you just ran screaming around flailing about how fucking bad it was, like I'm fucking bleeding, and that's how you responded to it, like it wouldn't help you at all fix the problem. Like if you were like calm down, or like I'm bleeding really fucking bad right now, I'll probably bleed out pretty fast if I don't put some pressure on this thing and wrap it up and then get to a doctor and start figuring things out. That's how you solve the problem.
Right.
It doesn't mean you're taking it less seriously because you're not running around and screaming about it.
But I do think because of like this thing that you're talking about, like the race to like sensationalize and like this like I do think that people's like mechanism for listening is broken right now.
Yes, I think
you
that's
do
true.
have to like kick and scream
so
for anyone
funny.
to fucking listen to you.
Some
You
to
have
some
to
degree, I
set
agree.
yourself on fire.
To
you
some
know?
degree,
It's-
I think that's true. I just think, I thought you were saying, I think it's breaking people's ability to listen because you just tune out anything.
Oh, well, that too.
If somebody went and set themselves on fire, I don't even know if anyone would pay attention. They'd be like, what a fucking idiot, set themselves on fire.
That too.
But like, it's because there's so much like constantly inundated with that, like what matters anymore, like what gets through. I don't know. I kind of think sometimes I think like in my, somebody wrote something, I think it was in that Confessions of an Economic Hitman book, Economic Hitman, that like you didn't need a conspiracy of a few people in a room, like 13 people in a room, like organizing how the world was going to fuck over people.
Yeah.
Because you had capitalism. So like you have the system of values and principles that if everybody holds them in accordance, they'll work in concert unconsciously to achieve these goals.
Yeah.
And like that's much scarier and more insidious. And I think there's something to that in terms of like a better way for the government to like hide secrets would be like in an era when you can control information flow and there's only 4 channels on TV, sure, classify all the documents, whatever. But like in this day and age, more effective would be to dump everything, just let everything be out there. And also there's all these hyper conservative psychos, and there's also all these hyper liberal psychos, like these anti-vax vegans that I see all over my Facebook. And you just put so much out there that no one can tell what anything is anymore.
Yeah, well, it's like working marvelously for like the Trump administration,
Sure.
and
But it just feels like then for our personal mental health, like what do you do with that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It is like there are so many things that I either like find out about every day or like already know about that are just so horrific. So many like systemic things that are just like hurting like so many people. You think about like the criminal justice system and like
These
incarceration
machines that are just churning daily. That,
yeah,
they don't
and
turn
it's
off.
so horrifying. And then there's like right around the corner, there's like another thing that's so horrifying, and it's just like all there and available to us. I don't know what to do with that other than like I have like 2 reactions. I'm like, I either can't get out of bed or I'm gonna go set myself on fire. It's like,
or just keep making music, which is actually very helpful.
I guess.
You make very beautiful music.
I guess
I think it's valuable. I mean, like
I don't know if it does shit. I think it's another drop in the pan because there's been artists speaking like truth to power for like ever.
I know.
Like
But
it's always like there's always like the gesture. Like remember we talked about that? Like the gesture can just say whatever about the king.
Right.
And it's
Yeah. I mean, that's true.
It's always like
and that's
that.
true. There's always, I feel that same. I was like,
and also I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
no, none of us do. That's the whole point. This whole podcast is like your authority on your own experience. It doesn't fucking matter. But I think like,
Are we cursing too much?
No, I say fucking shit all the time on this thing. In just my personal life of like the way I was saying this today to my friend, to Miles, actually. I was talking to Miles. I was like, in my personal life, and a lot of the people that are around me, I think, follow this pattern. It's very much like a binge mindset, like a binge sprint mindset.
Yeah.
That like if I get on a creative project or I have like, I've got a spark of an idea or I'm going to go drinking or whatever. I'm like, I'm fucking doing this. Now it's like food especially. And you're just like all fucking in, no fucking rest, no fucking anything.
Yeah.
And
no time to process anything.
No time. Yeah. And that like, that's just how I am. And so likewise, when I'm in sloth, I'm the same way. When I'm like going to do nothing but get baked and play video games, I'm the same way. And that's just the way it is. And watching people close to me who become more successful, who are meaning like they have more job demands on them because they have more opportunities to do those jobs. And it's stuff they've sought out and they love, but like are now realizing, oh, if it's not going to be like a month or two at a time or a week or two at a time, I can't do this like binge sprint life, which I feel like correlates to the way we take in the horrors. Like the binge sprint of horror of like the internet that is available for you to know all the bad things is like constant. And it's like, especially when you know now, it's not even that new. Like it's actually been worse in the past. It was just before, it was like the narrative was so controlled and the idea of like national identity and patriotism as like, you know, like all the little fucking dumb wars and shit we did were like justified because you accepted the one narrative and you were just living your life and it was prosperous for this country and blah, blah, blah. Like now that you start to realize, oh, it's always been this way. There was never like a good time.
No.
Even domestically, especially domestically, like if you're a white straight guy, maybe.
But artists have been saying this the whole time.
Of course. That's true. But artists can't change anything until like, I mean, really all that's going to be is you need captain of industry to change or people will actually have to like seize the means of production. So we'll see what happens. But my point is just like in terms of getting through it, like keeping yourself so you can stay in the fight. Like whatever that means, like whatever that I think, which I truly believe just being alive and being conscious and like speaking up when you get the chance and like witnessing, I think all those things are like extremely fucking valuable things. I think they have real power and importance in the world. Like I guess this is where this idea, that's very glib idea of self-care comes in. But I was going to say, like, with the sprint binge is like, you start enforcing certain things where you're like, my day is going to end at 8:00. I have to run or I have to do like exercise or something because otherwise I'll lose my fucking mind and this project won't be good. Or like, I have something that's due tomorrow at noon or whatever. Let's say I've got a few hours left. Am I going to push through till 4 a.m. now? Or do I sleep now? Because I know the work I do now is going to be terrible. Like the work that I do while this exhausted is going to be so useless to anybody that I'm better off just sleeping now and getting a few hours done in the morning. Maybe it's a couple hours late, but it's like turned in and it's good.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's true for our mental well-being. Like,
yeah,
if we have a heart, if we have an interest in, like, that stupid thing they say, like, luck is just like preparation meeting opportunity.
Yes.
I used to like call my physical practices and my mental like my spiritual ones, before I had like really good ones in place. Even I called it like the daily preparation. And I had this concept when I was a kid that was like important to me of like making like that the opposites weren't everyone says this, weren't like hate and love. They were like hate and fear, or love and fear, and that like love was just another word for strength, and that like you're talking about like strength versus fear basically, and that your daily preparation would be about cultivating this strength, like cultivating strength to protect like the love that you feel and value and want in the world. And there's something to me that seems like almost obvious now, that like the inundation of bad news, the new almost gleefully presented atrocity of conservative movement, like through Fox News or whatever, like all these kinds of things seem so clearly there to get us riled up and get us crazy. And I can take it out of politics. We can just make it about commerce. Like the constant inundation of like advertisement and fear and need is there to keep you always reeling on the back foot. Like, what was he saying? Run the Jewels. He's like, punches in bunches, punches meant to leave you frontless. Like that idea of like, they're combos. They're meant to keep you backing up and reeling and never able to like know where the next punch is going to come from. And you can only remain strong and like well by truly like figuring out how to sidestep out of that at some point and let yourself like breathe and reset and get a view of things. And I think it's hard to let yourself do that while being conscious, because when I was younger, especially, like I was like so mad. I had friends who'd be like, I just don't watch the news. It's not my reality. I just realized it's all fake and it's not in my reality unless I let it in. And I'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, you think you can just ostrich like that? You can just stick your head in the sand and like it just goes away?
Yeah.
Now I have like a little bit more measured view of it, where it's like, I don't advocate that. I don't advocate, especially like going to the idea that like it goes away when I don't look at it. That's madness. But like, I do think that you need to give yourself chances to breathe and like do something that's good for you or regenerative or whatever, just so you have the capacity, so that like when you see something terrible on the street or something like that, you're not just so worn down that like you're just like, another thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. So that's what I was going to say, but like just the Twitter thing, like these little steps to like reel in the thing that you didn't have a choice over or felt like you didn't, like, but you participate in, like that way of taking in information. That's so, I mean, okay. Cause then you gave me this idea. I think about this sometimes about like the things we're eating, right? Is like, okay, ADHD is a dopamine receptor problem. This is all pseudoscience. None of this is real. I'm just going to share like synthesizing thoughts that I feel like I've had from taking it all in. I've learned that it's a dopamine receptor problem, that like your dopamine receptors don't accept a stimulus well. So you're constantly looking for new sources of dopamine, more intense sources of dopamine, more intense stimulus. And this results in a host of like emotional and behavioral problems for people who have it, that manifest in your personal life and your sense of well-being and your, whatever. Because instead of being able to focus or be calm or spend, consistent time caring for something and crafting it, you're just got to find some new thing. I think it's resulted, I think it's where my risk-seeking behavior has come from, like, drug use and stuff, because you're just looking for something that'll get you more stuff, like more electric dopamine, serotonin, whatever.
Yeah.
And that dictates your whole life, including like in interpersonal relationships, like finding things to fight about. Like like my codependency in relationships over my life, now I can recognize to some degree seems to be a mechanism of that. Like if I can firebomb something right now, we'll have to work it out. We'll have to have a fight. We'll have to and that'll be so intense. We'll have to make up. It'll be so great. So I think about that. And then I'm like, knowing that this is a dopamine receptor problem, and we know like looking at our phones gives you hits of dopamine, which is why people get addicted to their phones, why you tap the fucking, I need more likes. I want more likes. I want to see more things. With Twitter, I see opinions that are clever and good and that resonate with my own, and they make me feel validated, and they make me feel like, oh, that's clever, and they make me feel smarter and funnier, because when you read them right into your brain, they almost feel like your own thoughts.
Yeah.
And we know like throughout nature, like we build up tolerances to things. So like whatever's enough today won't be enough tomorrow, like just chemically. So I'm like, part of me was like, are we giving ourselves ADD basically? Like, are we burning out our dopamine receptors by constant inundations of this, of Twitter, of likes and whatever, that forces us then to want and need more and creates this frenzy? And then on top of that, food, we know that like biochemically now, inflammation is a cause of depression, like just tissue inflammation. And if the food that we're eating on the whole, like, is grossly inflammatory diets, like you can Google like for 5 seconds and learn like corn, sugar, all grain, carbohydrates have an inflammatory quality for your tissues.
Yeah.
Like, how might that affect like a nation? Like we know inflammation then, oh, not to mention bacteria growth, right? Dopamine and serotonin, which are manufactured primarily in your gut by your gut bacteria, healthy gut bacteria, and then it gets up to your brain. So if I have poor gut bacteria, which you definitely have bad gut bacteria if mostly what you're eating is like what's given to you on the store shelves, full of like nitrates and shit like that, and like all this different carbohydrates that are very processed and crazy, like bad gut bacteria for sure. So you have inflamed tissues, you're not making enough dopamine and serotonin. So the inflamed tissues gives you depression. The dopamine and serotonin only inhibit that. Like on a national scale, like no wonder people would vote the way they do, like from a place of anger and discomfort and displeasure and like nothing's fucking good and they're just pissed. Like that's how depressed people behave, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, there does seem like a systemic, like not to be like super woo woo, but I was like, if everybody just like, what if you could snap your fingers and like, instead of electrical cars or whatever being the thing that you switch to, you snap your fingers and everybody just had to eat like vegetables, like good ones without pesticides and shit in them. Like, and that's just what they switched to for the rest of their life. Like, would the like general mood like just start to get like, oh, my body, I don't feel bad so much. I didn't shit my brains out all day today.
Maybe. I think part of that,
I guess I'm trying to speak to like the power of like personal self-care to affecting your ability to then be better in the world.
No, I agree that that's a thing. I guess partially that annoys me because like there are like, you know, very valid reasons to feel like hurt and upset,
right,
and angry, and to feel like the world is like crashing down around us, because like in so many ways it is for like so many people, and there are so many like bad actors out there that are like taking advantage of of all of these like societal things.
That it's like frustrating to be like, just take responsibility for like you're saying, the thing I'm saying is like fix these things in your life to like be to deal to and that will fix the thing, when it's like no, there's a lot of people causing these problems.
Yeah, in a way. Not so much that like what you're saying is what angers me. I guess what angers me is that is a thing that is like making people feel upset when there's like real valid reasons for like people to feel upset. And I also don't want to, I feel like a lot of what I said is like kind of confused depression with just like feelings about the world and like sadness and stuff, which are like obviously two very different things.
Yes, but they're definitely interconnected. They are. I think that's like, That's what scared me when Bourdain killed himself. That's what scared me when, like, you know, when you're like, there's two things going on. There's
Yeah.
like or like vets in the military, like PTSD, like, which I'm going to talk to somebody about that on this podcast soon. But, you know, suicide rates are very high, and there's like, it seems like there's very little national interest wanting to be given to, like, maybe it's because you're making them do horrible things that are hard to live with.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Instead, it's just like, oh, we don't, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
we don't take care
there's
of them when they get back home.
Yeah,
and
there's
it's
like, similarly to, like, yes, there's like depression that's real. Like, I don't think, like, in terms of a chemical thing that, like, even though everything's fine and good, you still can't feel it. You can't feel love. You can't feel well. Like, that's a real thing that we experience. Like, I mean, this is the first fucking place to acknowledge that. But that the scary thought and the hard thought is then to go, like, but also there are real reasons to be very upset.
Yeah.
I guess
Like,
what I'm trying to argue for is just that, like, the importance of working on, like, if I am, like, I'm going to lose 100% of the time if I have internal depression and I can look at my universe. Maybe that's kind of what we're, like, breaking it down to. Not to be, like, super binary, but that it's, if there's, like, if I just feel horrible in my life, it seems like one side of the spectrum, of the self-care spectrum, is just like, oh, fuck all that world stuff. That's all. Just ignore all that. Cut that out. Just work on you.
Right.
And the other side of it is like, no one gives a fuck about you. Go live in the world and figure it out. You know? Mm. Which, you know, isn't exactly like fix the world, but it's like live in the world, deal with it. Nobody fucking cares about your problems, stuff like blah, blah. Just live in it, deal with it. Make it a worldly issue, not an internal one. But, like, the truth seems to lie somewhere in, like, seems to me is like, I guess what I would advocate is, like, work on yourself, make sure that your instruments, in a very, like, samurai way, like, make sure you are taken care of so that then you can receive the problems of the world and deal with them better. Like, so that you can help make them better in your community, in your personal relationships, in your life, and let that start to trickle out that way. Don't let, like, so it's both. It's like, don't ignore it. Don't pretend the world doesn't exist, because that's not fucking doing anyone any favors. Meter it out for yourself as much as you can handle to get this shit together. But also, don't buy into that bullshit of, like, nobody cares about you, snowflake. Like, you know what I mean?
And I think there's something about people who struggle with different mental illnesses that is that attracts me more so than just, like, this, like, shared experience of, like, we go through the same struggle mentally, and more there like is an element of, like, third eye open a little bit with people, where, like, I often struggle with people who are okay, or who are like at, like, a baseline, you know, they react to things in, like, a quote unquote normal way, or like a healthy way, or whatever, where I don't know, it's just so I feel like people who are struggling, like, are teachers. It is the canary in the coal mine, like you said. And that's important to not lose sight of that in, like, trying to, like, fix people, I guess.
Right.
Because, like I guess I just recognize that, like, I mean, I'm just repeating myself at this point.
That's
like,
okay.
Yeah, I need to be fixed.
I do that all the time.
Yeah, there's, like, a lot of things that I react to poorly. I don't like deal with the world in, like, a way that's, like, healthy or sustainable. But also, like, the world is not healthy or sustainable.
That's very true. I guess, like, we're not healthy or sustainable either. Like, we're gonna die.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, people are gonna die. You're gonna die. That's fucking hard to argue with. That the world is not healthy and sustainable. But I guess I would never go, like, it's hard because you're, like, somebody I really respect. So it's dangerous to leave something hanging there that just sounds so true, but is so potentially destructive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because I also don't believe the world is unhealthy and unsustainable. So fuck it. You know what I mean?
No, of course not.
So I'm like, I wouldn't, because I mean,
But
it's
just saying, but
I was
that's
like,
what I'm
I was
saying.
like, even then, I'm like working through this for myself right now. Because you say that to me, you go like, the world's. I mean, like, I'm frustrated with the idea of like, why should I try to be healthy and sustainable, and the world's not healthy and sustainable. And I'm like, very much for me, I'm like, it's a combination of things. It's a combination of like an almost crushy feeling that I have about you since I met you, like that. I'm like, fuck, Koda's the real deal. Like Koda's like you just have like a magical. I mean, I'm not to be weird. I think I've said this stuff to you before to some effect, but like you really
I love you
are.
too, Jared.
I love you very much. I do, but like you do have like some third eye open quality that is like real. And this continues. You're a little bit younger than me, not that much younger than me, but like this thing does keep happening as I get older, where you meet people younger than you that are smarter than you, and you're just like, fuck, you're really like, oh, wow. And so you say that, and I'm like, it really pushes all my buttons of like my self-immolation buttons and my like, yeah, fuck it. Like, dude, that it's validating to my self-destructive tendencies that say like, no, they're not wrong. They're there for a reason. It's because it's reflecting the fucking way the world is. It makes sense, you know, which is all true. So it's very hard. It's very easy to hear that. Like, it's a very romantic thought too. And just go like, well, yeah, it does make sense. Because I do agree basically with, I think what you're saying to some degree, which I agree with, is like the world is unhealthy and fucked up. So the people who are normal are actually kind of fucked up. The ones who are like, yeah, this is good and normal, and I'm well adjusted. I think that all the time about like people who like have never been diagnosed to like have you been diagnosed with a mental illness, and you're just like, and like all the ones who just never went and got checked out. Like I put off going to a psychiatrist for a long time because I just didn't want it. Because I was like, they'll find something. I just don't want to have it on paper. How many people are like that?
Yeah.
But like,
Well, also on a micro level, it's the same, where we were talking about like, even if you like fix someone's dopamine receptors, you have them on all the right medications, they like can navigate life normally, they still have these like all these like dark seeds.
well, I think what I would just say about that. Okay. So my ultimate thing was just like, I just can't commit to that because everything will just self-immolate, and be like, just the way I said, I don't think the world should stay unhealthy and unsustainable means like I don't want to surrender to that. I think it's incumbent on us to try to change it. But you just said something really good, and please continue. Do you remember what you're saying? I'm so sorry.
Oh no. I mean, that was the end of the thought.
What was the thought? Say the thought
Just
again.
that it was the same we were talking about on the micro level earlier of like, even if you get someone on all the right medications and you have them doing all the right things and
Yes.
practicing all this right self-help
Yes.
and self-care things, they still have these wounds.
Right. Hello.
Hey, Aaron.
We've been enjoying. Hey, Aaron, sorry. We knew. I impromptu asked Koda to do this, and he did it. Welcome home.
Welcome home.
I'm not even going to cut it. I cut this out.
Am I on my good bad brain?
You're on my good bad brain now. Thank you, Aaron.
Hi, Aaron. You're on My Good Bad Brain.
I'm sure.
I just think I was gonna say that I think it's incumbent, like, a person who tries to fix their dopamine receptors, gets well, works on their shit, I think is better able to recognize and not accept fucked up things that come to them. When somebody comes to them and tries to like scoop them into some new drama and say like, you fucking did some shit to me and now you have to make up for it or whatever, they'll go like, no, I used to think that, but now I know that's not true. I'll help you how I can, but it's not on me. I think that also makes you more able to look at your world of fucked up problems and go like, where am I putting my energy? All that energy I was putting towards like being like miserable about stuff, like I could actually just start helping. I could start like doing things with it.
Yeah.
You know? And to me, like that's why I would advocate, because I do think it's correct. If you feel fucked up right now, you're right. Like it's really fucked up. You're just paying attention. That's all it is. Or even more than that, I think there's something like unrest that everyone's feeling like everywhere, no matter what side of the line, and how they decide to deal with that. Like I think that's reflected in like the Christian community a lot. Like when you have like it's just something in them organically knows something's really fucked up, and the way they're coping with it is just like doubling down like crazy, like by being like you have the Family Values Party like hiring like pedophiles like Roy Moore, like, or the Catholic Church being like, oh, when you know what they are, like it's on paper and recorded, and you just double down. That just speaks to like you're just trying to your cortex is trying to deal with like your limbic system in a very weird way. Like your limbic system is going, something's wrong, and you just go like, I can't even deal with it, so we're gonna keep going. Right. Like everybody knows. I think that by seeing it, so if you're feeling fucked up, that makes sense because it's fucked up. Everything's fucked up. But like I truly believe you'll be better to yourself and the world if you can take the time to make yourself so you don't feel so overwhelmed by fucked up every day. You know, you like don't, it's not about going like, oh, actually it was just my mindset. The world's not that fucked up. There's lots of good things, and actually I should just focus on the good things, and the bad things are just, they're there, but they're not as bad as they were in the past, and so everything's fine. I don't think I'm advocating that. I just think like taking it more, letting it all in, and like letting the good stuff in too, so that you can have a rich, wonderful life where like you still get to experience joy. I think regularly. I think like daily we're allowed joy, you know, which I feel like you do. Like you make beautiful art, you have beautiful friendships. Like,
oh yeah. And either way, like my life is better, and like the people involved in my life, like everything is better when I can get out of bed. Right. You know, like that's obvious. Yes. I think like, because I had this thought too about like people that you want to be close to, that I was like, I don't want somebody who's so competent nothing ever goes wrong. I want to be near people who like, when things go wrong, can still laugh with you in like misery. Like who, because there's no way misery's not coming. Like there's no way. It's there. It's there, like you were talking about. It's there every day. It's like just comes down to like, how good are you at surfing in that? And both like feeling, it's the stupid Hulk thing, you know, I'm angry all the time. Like my secret, I'm always angry. Is like eventually it seems like wellness will rely on living in some kind of paradox where like you take care of your like physical system, like so that it's fed and nurtured and like balanced as best it can, and exercise like it's a dog. I've started thinking about my body more like a pet basically, but like also clear-eyed open, like seeing it all and being like having principles about it and doing what you can, which, you know, for some people is very limited, like what we can do to like physically impact things. But there's something, you know, like there really is. Like that thing you said that you were worried about, like what's the small thing you're going to say that people are going to remember and kill themselves about? There's a lot of things that you say, I think all of us, little things that make people stay alive, you know? Yeah. And that's like just as real. Probably more real, honestly. Yeah. You know? Yeah.
What?
Oh, I wasn't sure if that was a good ending point.
That's a nice little, I would, you know, I realized I didn't clear with you. Can you do my 6 Qs section?
Oh yeah.
Let's do that too then. Let's go. The first one is always like, have you ever been diagnosed with any stuff, mental, whatever? Yes. And what if so?
Manic depressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? Like, did you go to a psychiatrist, or like, how old were you?
I was like 15 or 16, and I just had like a big old, just kind of like mental breakdown, like fighting with my family, and I tried to kill myself, and ended up spending a couple weeks in like a mental institution in South Carolina, which was interesting because I kind of like, I guess I like intellectualized my way out of there. Yeah. Because I just like, I don't know. I guess everyone else's like problems were manifesting, like everyone that I met there, their problems were like manifesting in such a more like, not real, but like dramatic way. than I felt. And I mean, there's always there's like a lot of societal pressure with like or like family pressure of like, well, you're not like, I don't know if you've ever gotten this, but just the like, you're not depressed or you're not this because like you have a great life and like
Right.
you know, like that kind of thing. And so I kind of just like said whatever I needed to say to get the fuck out of there,
Yeah.
you know, like basically like, oh, you know, I mean, I don't remember exactly. I like, I kind of like block out.
No, yeah,
like I
I
remember like
understand.
certain
My
small
dad
things.
talks. My dad like got held in like psychiatric whatever facility for a while, and he talks about it in similar terms, where he's just like, it was just horrible, and it's just like, never he got out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's like weird and like dehumanizing and like.
Are you? Would you say you're manic depressive? Is that the same as bipolar? That's like, what? Do you know if you're one or two? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't even know.
I was just curious. Just because there's like different. I don't know. And I'm just curious because I don't know exactly. I know my dad is too, and it was something I thought I was for a long time. And I'm like, sometimes I'm like, I don't even know. They ended up saying, I have ADD and I was depressed, and they were like, and you're like, I don't know. When you learn some of the symptoms of everything, I'm like, how do they pick one or the other? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It feels like a lot of the same symptoms can come from different mechanisms.
Right.
And I guess that's part of the point of like hopefully finding a good doctor and trying, because there's like bad doctors too.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of like, I don't want to get too much into it.
No, yeah, I don't need
But
to.
it was
I
just
appreciate
like-
you sharing because I think like, it's like with Miles, like anybody is like, there's a lot of people who listen and it feels very weird. It feels like very impossible to go on after certain things. And knowing that I didn't know that about you, and I appreciate you sharing it. Like I didn't know that about you. You just seem like you make beautiful things in your world and you're like a good thing in it. And so I don't need you to like go into it. Like I don't need like some horror. I don't need like juicy shit, for this podcast. I just appreciate you even sharing that because it's validating and it creates possibility for other people,
Well, I also had it wasn't like a completely isolated thing. Do you remember I had like cystic acne. Do you remember this drug called what was it called? It was like
Accutane?
yeah, Accutane.
I've heard of that.
So I was on Accutane,
Uh-huh.
and sorry, I've got like a
I know you've had this cold.
yeah. So I was on Accutane, and
Which
I just had
affects
this.
your hormones and stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. So like a lot of it was like placed on that. So then I was on like Prozac for a while
Fuck.
and kind of just like weaned myself off. Like I basically just like wasn't taking my meds, and
Right.
then it was kind of like just a whole like cycle of bullshit. My
Plus you're
house
16,
burned
right?
down,
You're, like,
like
15. Oh,
yeah,
damn.
and like all this shit happened, and there's a lot of like family drama. I mean, it was just a whole thing.
Yeah.
And like at the same time, I was just this like horrible little ball of like toxic like craziness. Not to say like
I know what you mean. No, you're
yeah.
16 too, because on top of that, like you're already like a soup of like crazy hormones and feelings when you're that age.
yeah, which
So,
I know
like,
somebody would get mad at us for saying like crazy. I've said insane a couple of
dude,
times.
I
and,
can't
you know.
deal with that one. I understand like there's an argument about it being ableist or whatever to
I
say
get
things
it.
are crazy, but like I don't know what you want me to do. I'm fucking crazy. I'm crazy, and I don't know other words. You know what I mean? And also
Yeah.
like I also resent it on some level as like a poetic thing, like
Yeah.
as like hyperbole is something valuable to me. The same way people tell me don't say fucking shit, it offends me. I'm like, have big feelings. They seem expressed with vulgarity well,
Yeah. And I just want to say that like if that's something that like really upsets you, like I hear you.
Yeah, of course. I think so too. I mean, I'm also whatever. It's maybe problematic, I guess, but like, there's also an aspect of like, I don't think it's helpful to like try to pretend I don't exist in the context of my society and reality.
Right.
So like, as much like we're saying it's canary in a coal mine. I think there should be a space for everybody, but I don't believe like it's even reasonable to expect to create some sort of homogenous experience of being a human that we all have.
Right.
Like, I mean, it's fucking Kanye shit to some degree. The thing when he starts screaming like, it's my superpower,
Yeah.
like my crazy, my superpower. And that really like spoke to me that you're like, I was directing this project the last few weeks and I was like, thank you, ADD brain. I didn't stop taking my medication.
When I'm up, I'm like,
yeah. And I don't mean to like over romanticize like the, high of that. Cause I understand that's part of what I'm experiencing when that happens. But I do think it's in its goods and bads, our differently shaped brains as humans suit us to different tasks. And I don't like to me, like the demonized version of socialist thought is that you're all going to wear the same uniform. We're going to make everybody seem the same. And that's what we're trying to do. But that's not really true. I think the thought is that phrase about like to each according to their needs, from each according to their capabilities. And like, if you have two people and one's very, very strong and very large and one is very, very small and very weak, and you have one big fucking rock to carry and one little one, you give the big rock to the other, you know what I mean? You don't go like, well, let's make it random so it's fair. Like, so this thing of being like, like it helps me to go like, I'm fucking crazy sometimes. And I can also recognize, I don't think that means that I'm unhealthy all the time. Like we're talking about canary in a coal mine. Maybe I'm sane. Maybe I'm feeling, and I like have kept my ability to be sensitive like the way I had it as a child. And I didn't just numb out to survive to society's cruelties. And maybe society is sick and not me. But in the context of understanding crazy as different from what's normal, like I don't hate that. And this idea that like you'd get lost and stuck in I should be treated and allowed to feel like I'm the same as everyone else to some degree is like but you're not. And that's good and bad. And I don't know any more than sticking your head in the sand and pretending like bad things aren't happening on the news. Like I don't know how that helps anybody to like, you know what I mean? Like fight for that idea of normalcy. Not like treated like an equal, not like, you know what I mean? Like that's all fine and good. But like, I don't know. It's like living in complete fantasy and not pretending like, you know, some of us are tall and some of us are short and some of our brains are shaped this way and some of our brains are shaped this way. And the blanket term of like crazy, I don't know, helps me cope sometimes.
Yeah.
You know? I'm
like, well, I can work with that.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
So like this idea, like don't say crazy, don't say dumb, don't say... But
I can't like, no, I agree. I can't like, the DSM or whatever it is, you know, is, scary, I guess.
Yeah. Right. To be like, I'm part of that now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get that. I get that enough that for years I avoided a diagnosis, you know, so I just wouldn't have the label. And so like, as a result, part of starting this podcast, for years, I didn't get help. That has fundamentally changed my life.
Yeah, I don't even fucking remember.
You know?
Like, that's where I'm at. I'm like, it's like, there's like periods of my life that I just like blacked out. Yeah. You know?
That's, well, I'm not. The next question was part of that same thing is if medications you've tried, how you felt about them, if anything helped you or didn't help you.
Just Prozac and mushrooms.
And how were they? How were both of those things?
Mushrooms are fun.
Yeah.
I don't really remember Prozac.
Yeah.
I remember like, I bet it would be all right now. If I took it now, if I was back on that medication, then like the circumstances of just like, oh my God, there's something wrong with Jordan now.
Right. Right.
There's something wrong like in our family.
Ugh.
There's like a darkness. I'm going to the hospital. I'm going to see a therapist. Like, and that was a huge deal too,
amazing.
because like,
well, you are literally the canary in the coal mine in that situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like literally in your family unit, you get to become the canary in the coal mine, and it's like they're getting mad at the canary for like the fucking coal that's killing everyone. You know what I mean? That's remarkable. And also I think speaks like not to like turn, but just contextually, that's really fascinating and real. Like it's like, I am very grateful to my mother that she started working on certain mental things in her later life and family trauma things and whatever. And me and my siblings have like this consensus on it, basically, that we're like, thank you, Mom, because she was very young when she had us and there was a lot of crazy shit when we were younger. But like, we're like, thank you for working on your shit because we don't have to do that now. Like she worked on stuff that we didn't have to work on. And sometimes I think that happens in family units, especially where like if things are really fucked up and you're actually manifesting it, and the one who wants to go like things are fucked up, I'm fucked up, things are fucked up, and it's embodying in you, and people in your family are like resenting you for it or being like you're crazy. It's 100% because they don't want to work on it like with themselves and their thing.
And which like now like my parents have like, and they've gone through the ringer too.
Sure.
And like I'm only just now like starting to get to like really understand like what they were going through. And that helps me a lot too. And like they're just like wonderful people now. Like I think my mom started taking medication and she's like really mellowed out. And like my dad my dad has a whole like litany of like health problems from he was a paratrooper for some context. He was he was a paratrooper and a chaplain's assistant in the Army. And
which means especially your chaplain's assistant, like not only are you present for a lot of like fucked up stuff, but you're also like absorbing a lot of people's fucked up stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
And it was like he was in like Desert Storm and stuff and gone a lot of the time, like deployed for months out of the year, and like that's always a hard thing. And like they went from being like fundamentalist Christians, they led like a praise and worship band when we were in Italy, to like moving to South Carolina and like completely rejecting all of that. And then at the same time my dad developed like atrial fibrillation in his heart and had to get a pacemaker and like literally like died and came back. And it was just like, I don't know, my like teenage years were just like, I just like gloss over it. And like, I get it. I get why it was like such a like, oh my God, like how the fuck do we deal with this? Because like they were like dealing with their own shit, Maybe like people shouldn't have kids when they're 20.
Babies having babies. Yeah, I know. Well, maybe she's 19, and there's like very similar. I'm pulling this up because I forget sometimes my I forget like my 6 quick cues, and I just want to get them vaguely in order, which is really silly.
This one wasn't very quick.
No, that's the joke. I feel like. Oh, I did have the right next one. What's something cheesy you find inspiring? Oh, wait. We blew past. I want to know about mushrooms. Because I've heard a lot about mushrooms. I've had little bits of them in my life. But how were they for you?
It's hard to say because like it was another case of like medication at like the wrong fucking time, because it was like another period, like just like tumultuous period where I was doing mushrooms like every weekend. Yeah. And like and just like experience, like I was like a little bit of a psychonaut for like a long period, like a year of where I was just like, not every weekend, but like I was doing them a lot. Like I think I did mushrooms like it was like 50 times in like a year and a half or period. What was that
like?
It was great. I feel like I was able to have a lot of like, I mean, people always have like breakthroughs, but I think like a lot of stuff stuck with me, and I was able to see like a lot of like toxic patterns and like behaviors in myself that like it's not like they were all instantly fixed, right? I still go through like long periods where I can barely get out of bed. answer texts. I can't like talk to people. I can't like do anything. But like it was just like a great way to like, it's like laying everything out on the table in front of you.
Yeah.
Like all of the shit that you can't normally see. I mean, it's like its own form of therapy, and like being able to like intellectualize all of these like toxic behaviors and stuff makes them so much less scary and so much easier to like identify and pick out and like work on shit. And even if it was just like having fun, it wasn't always I'm not gonna be all self-righteous about it and act like I was like medicating myself, but like even just having fun on psychedelics can be like really profound in like the way that like you enjoy other people's happiness around you, and like the way that like it was just a very healing process. Like it was never really dark or anything. I mean, it's dark in that like you start to like see things for what they really are,
right?
You know, and like
that's
certain
so
like societal practices are like they're just like stripped of all of the dressing up that they have. You know, you start like it's so cliche and like baby just read fucking you know, the Communist Manifesto or whatever, but you start to see like just like banks and suits and money and like all this shit as just like how silly it is. And like you look around and you see everyone for just these fucking like self-interested like apes that are doing all this weird shit that runs counter to like what it means to be like a human, or like what it means to just like to exist, or to like love, or to like, we just have so many like rituals and stuff that gets identified. Like you just see it see it like very clearly. It's hard to really describe. Like it's just like,
it's funny.
It just none of it makes sense. None of the shit. And then the stuff that like does make sense to you when you're on psychedelics is like the things that are real, like love and like seeing someone, like enjoying someone's happiness. Like all that is real, and all of the dress up that we do is like nonsense. And that sticks with you. It definitely sticks with you. Like I have a hard time going back to just like playing little like political games with people and shit, because it's so counter to like goodness, I guess. Yeah.
It's funny. I think the time that I took mushrooms, it seemed like that they like took hold the most, you know, was sorry, I'm just making sure the battery's like, oh, we're good. That's how I described it. Was I was like, I felt like I could only see the truth. Like you know what I mean? Like, there's something to that. It's funny too. I just thought like right now, like
it's like They Live.
It is like They Live. That They Live was definitely like John Carpenter took mushrooms and was like, I'm gonna just. It's funny too, like not to be so extremely horny, but with an EY, but like I was just thinking to myself, like that's true, like the profound. Like the profundity of like sharing, feeling the happiness other people feel is so nice and good. Like that's eating together. That's like laughing with your friends. It's not like I think we get taught that it's like, it feels good to hang out with your friends and laugh with them because you feel good. Yeah. And everyone wants you to, that's like, I think a very popular general philosophical thought that everything you do is ultimately selfish, that you do it because it like, ultimately makes you feel good to do something nice or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
But I think that's bullshit. I really do. And I think there is a real thing of feeling other people's happiness. Yeah. You know? That like, there's mirror neurons, you know? Like there's that thing of mirror neurons that humans have, which is like if you see someone else's face up close, like if they show you a video of them, and then they express emotions, that your brain fires the same emotions. Like that's like a real thing. So like, there is something to this, like feeling someone else's emotions and their happiness in particular. That's like that's I think why sex is so good, is like, it's like when it's good, and what makes it good or bad is like when someone else with you is feeling good and you're like creating that good feeling for them, you are like feeling their happiness. Yeah. And that's like a weirdly profound, I don't know. I think that speaks to maybe like the drive to make art, you know, the drive to like, make good things in the universe that like make other people feel stuff is like not I mean, I guess, and someone else could argue like cynically this comes back around to like you're making yourself feel good with their good feelings, but
God, what's the harm in that?
Yeah, but exactly, totally.
You know, like-
but also like I think there is a fundamental subtle difference between I'm doing something that creates good feelings in me as opposed to like I create good feelings in them and I'm feeling their feelings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
It-
just,
it is-
just
it is
acknowledging
different.
that that's possible is like a huge paradigm shift to understand. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Which I think also speaks to why if you're really lost, if you're really like waiting for someone to come save you, it never works. But if you go show up for somebody else, like if you can find the ability to get out of bed, if you can find it within your bones that like you're feeling so fucking horrible, if you can find it within yourself to go serve someone else, even if that's as simple as like showing up for a friend who needs some help with something,
Yeah.
like it always will drag you out of your shit.
Yeah.
Almost always. You know what I mean? Obviously not. But you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Anyway, that's really good. I'm going to turn the light on because I think it's getting a little dark.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I got it.
Oh shit!
Put it all
I'm
the way
making them
up.
go
I
crazy.
gotta-
Oh, the hue
We got the
bulbs.
hue- We got the hue
got them
bulbs.
hues.
We upgraded. This podcast brought to you by Philips Hue.
Philips Hue, not, but I would be happy to because they're just so delightful.
Are they? I don't know. I feel
I
like
love them.
No, the product itself is delightful.
I don't know
feel
anything
like
about the company. I don't know anything about the company. I'm just talking about the product itself is like ultimately very lovely.
I'm just scared. I don't want to know about any of my products because I know it's like
Of course.
they're like
Of course.
Hue has slaves or something. I don't know.
Yeah. That's okay.
Philips, not Hue.
Right, not the
Hue is
bulbs. The bulbs. I am the bulbs. They force me to do their bidding. Okay, we'll move on. What's something cheesy you find inspiring?
Something cheesy I find inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. I don't know. Cheesy is such a like. I'm starting to let go of like cheesy
Right.
because we live in a society. We just like live in this world where like everything is so cynical now, and like we're so cynical about like sincerity and
Right.
things, and like I don't know, it's so refreshing to like go watch some like just something that is just like fully sincere and not like trying to be like clever or trying to be like revealing in like some way, and it's just like a celebration of beauty. So like cheesy is hard for me. I don't know, something cheesy that I find inspiring is what about something that's like on the surface it's
Right.
cheesy, like we all take it as cheesy, but
Right.
it's like very much not. Hold on, I'm gonna blow my nose.
Yeah, sure,
'cause
sure.
It's just, can
Here.
we pause it?
Yeah, just hang out. I need to stop it for the battery anyway. We are back. Pee break over.
Okay, we are back.
Yeah, so what's something cheesy? I will say this question is inherently flawed because, or it's like a trick question because I do agree with you. I don't believe, like, I was like, ironic pleasure is, which is a favorite thing of like our little generation probably, is still just, it's just pleasure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you wear the Ninja Turtle t-shirt because it's like, oh, fucking it's ironic. It's like, you're actually enjoying it, the irony. So
I did start watching Grey's Anatomy.
you did?
recently.
Do you like it?
It's so good.
Really?
It's so insane. Well, I started episode 1. There were just a bunch of drunk people at the house, which is like a typical thing. And I just like, I kind of put it on as a joke. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna just sit here and watch Grey's Anatomy. And I started watching like the first episode, and my roommate Erin was like, she was like, oh yeah, all of these people die like by the end of the show. And I was like, what the fuck? How?
I mean, I've never watched the show, but it sounds
It's
like
not like The
a
Walking
network show.
Dead.
Yeah.
It's like
it's like people in a hospital.
It's people who work in a hospital. I was like, how do they all die? What? So I went and watched like season 13 and I watched like 4 episodes of it and it's amazing. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's like the filmmaking is like so bad. It's kind of like that. It's like that interdimensional cable shit where it's
Yeah,
just like
totally.
you're like, how did someone make this? Like it breaks all the
Dude,
rules.
That's how
not
I
in
feel,
a good way.
That's how I feel watching the Jack Ryan show on Amazon.
Yes.
Have you watched any of
I
that?
haven't watched it yet,
Dude.
but I know I'm gonna.
Dude. Yeah. There's a sex scene in there that will make you never want to have sex again. No, that's not true. That's not
Most
true.
sex scenes make me never want to have sex
That's
again.
no, the sex scene in there. I tweeted about it. I was like, I was laughing so hard watching it and just imagining a couple like getting horny watching it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I saw that tweet. Yeah.
It's just the show's incredible. I mean, and I like John Krasinski. Like on the whole, like I really like the Quiet Place or whatever.
I guess.
I liked it. You're like, I guess about it. I liked it. I liked it a lot. But I'm like, what is he doing? Like, what is this fucking? It's the most.
He's a Republican now.
Is that true?
No, that's not true. But he just like
show
he
is the
decided
most
to.
Republican
Yeah, he
show.
just like decided to give into that. It's like
the
you've been
most
watching
Republican show.
Who is America, right?
No, I've seen some of them, but I just can't keep up with content these days.
There's like one where he just has these like random fucking like basically like trolls, like just like internet troll guys, but they're just some like some like southern older men who are like white supremacists and hate women and all this,
Right.
And he's having them like just shout answers to things. And at one point, like he has the one guy just like shouting. He's like, who is your favorite novelist? And the guy's like, Tom Clancy. And he's like, why? And he's like, because I really like the stories and like the characters I really connect with and like that, but something like that. And it was just so fucking funny.
That's
like,
so fucking funny.
it's so good.
No, I mean, I can't even. It's funny because even I've been playing Siege a little bit, the Rainbow Six Siege game, which is based on Tom Clancy shit, and even that, like, it's such a hilarious like version of the world. Like, like these terrorists, these just like ever present, insidious, like it's so funny. Like, you know what I mean? Like, imagine
like
that
we've set up 2 bombs in a
like,
chateau.
Yes.
It's like,
Exactly. And like that there's just, I don't know. And that they're like well funded and they're just maniacs who like have to do this thing. I don't know. I think it's like, cause
none of the bullets in the game are real.
What do you mean?
They're all shooting like blanks and like pretending to be dead and stuff. Like the whole thing is just like the whole premise of the game is that it's like a simulation between
Of Rainbow Six Siege?
Yeah, between like all of the different like counter-terror groups in the world. Like they just get together and like train together for
that's
shits
very
and giggles.
funny. That's
like,
the premise
see
of
who's
the
best.
multiplayer.
Yeah.
That's very funny. That's very, very funny. But I was going to say that's so absurd. But that's just as absurd as like these games that like I think it's funny that the Tom Clancy books or people who read them like to think that they're realistic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that they're as if they're more realistic than fucking Batman. You know what I mean? That's what I think is funny about them. Like,
I mean, people think like people watch Christopher Nolan's Batman and they're like, yeah, it's so sick how they did it like realistic.
It's so. I watched it again recently and I was like, I'm not gonna pretend like I don't think there's fun shit in this movie. Like, like Heath Ledger. I think it's almost weird the Heath Ledger one, and I'm not saying this just because he died and like you're supposed to say it. Like he's really doing work in that movie. Like, he's like doing some art shit that's like amazing, and watching it alongside like Christian Bale going like talking like this is
where's Rachel?
And then on top of that, imagining all the people who watched it and are like, I really fucking like the way Chris Nolan did Batman because he did it like real.
Yeah,
like it's more real than Batman Forever with fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze. You know what I mean? That's so funny. Now I'm being such a like fucking hipster dick, like, but it's very funny.
No, I mean it's real. But anyway,
yes.
Oh, I didn't even get to the question. But first, I do want to say like the best part about
Grey's Anatomy.
Grey's Anatomy is that they cut like every 2 seconds. There'll be like a 23-second scene where you get like so much information, so much happens, none of it means anything or is important to anything that's ever existed ever.
Right.
And they'll cut like 20 times in like a 23-second scene.
Yeah.
and like big swooping like Michael Bay shots like around people, and they're just like having like a mundane conversation.
Yeah.
And they're
It's
like
incredible.
cutting every set. It's crazy.
I love
Not
that.
or it's not crazy. It's
Something. It's so that is kind of what frustrates me with that one is you're like there's not like substitutes for the words. You're like unique. It's so
bizarre.
fascinating.
It was bizarre.
But I think it's just like if I say it's so crazy, the point is it's a catch-all for it's like all those things.
Right.
Like I sometimes I love that like something I love is in language is like vague like you the what am I trying to say? Like precision use of vagueness.
Yeah.
Like that if you allow a thing, it allows people to speak in poetry. You know what I mean? Like if you use a vague term, like I think this idea, like the show Deadwood was the creator of the show Deadwood. I forget his name, but I heard him talking once about like the vulgarity on the show. That's like, oh, is someone coming? Yeah. Hello, welcome. We're still going.
Welcome, Aaron. Still going.
They come in, they come out.
Want me to crank these lights up, Aaron?
We got a mood going.
The good bad vibe.
Yes, it certainly feels that way.
So good, bad.
But he said this thing about the show that like the show's very vulgar on purpose.
Yeah.
And he was saying that like that was because it was this time in American history. Like if you look at correspondence at the time, he was like saying it was basically supported like historically, and that there was this basically at that time, like just after the Civil War, basically, if you went out west and you met people out west, you'd be like, if you actually had real conversations, like quickly you'd find something to kill each other over.
Right.
And so instead you'd be like, hey, what the fuck, huh? And they'd be like, fucking tell me about it. And he's like, yeah, motherfucker. Or something like that. And it really stuck in my brain that I was like, fuck. And I was like thinking like, I was thinking about that and like, that's true. That's like, you know, like you can get away with saying like, fuck, man. And that can mean everything or anything, and allows people to like put what they want into it. And then we can really connect as people in this weird way by saying nothing.
Yeah.
So instead of, as much as I love precision in language, like when you really like figure out how to say something very precisely and beautifully, I think there's also a lot of elegance in being able to just go like, it's just crazy. And everyone goes like, it sure is.
It sure
You know?
the heck is, yeah.
And almost like even like it's like a willful misinterpretation almost to be like, when I say crazy, I mean mentally fucked up in a way that's not acceptable and is weird and you should feel weird about.
Right.
Like that's odd. That's definitely not what I mean.
Right. Yeah, not at all.
Anyway.
Topsy-turvy
Yes.
is the best way that I can describe the
Topsy-turvy.
filmmaking of season 13
Delightfully topsy-turvy.
of Grey's Anatomy.
Which when I say crazy is generally what I mean. When I'm saying like people are crazy, I mean they're delightfully topsy-turvy. All right, so keep going.
Yes, not the filmmaking was not deranged in any way. I mean, well, a little bit. But so the
Cheesy that you find inspiring.
cheesy I find inspiring. I had to look
Somehow
it up because
Stone
I want to
Eye-
like read some lyrics.
Yeah.
Because I barely know my own lyrics.
Right.
But "What's Up" by the Four Non Blondes
Oh yeah.
fucked me up.
Oh, that's
The other
I remember
week.
you bringing this up. Yeah.
I just-
what's going on?
It came up in my I was like watching like 9 Inch Nails live or something,
Right.
and then it just like, you know how YouTube has all that the weird algorithms and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that music video came up, and for some reason I was like got to me,
Yeah, you should cover
and
it.
I was just like crying. I guess.
You should. Fuck it. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I might do it.
I would love to hear that because your covers are always really fun. You do like sync covers.
Yeah, I would
Frequently.
do it. I could do it syncy, I guess. I don't know. I would want to do it real.
Yeah,
I
you
would
should
wanna
do it real.
because
I
it's
like
such
that
a real
sync.
fucking song.
I like that sync has become a genre for you.
Yeah.
Like your Western voice or whatever. You like.
yeah, just like
I like that shit. I think it's good.
new blood.
I've like forced people to sit through that stuff like awkwardly. Like I've done it to Zeke a few times where I'm like, listen to this.
It is awkward because it's all like
To make some no. The music's not awkward. It's just it's awkward to do that to somebody. To go
Yeah.
like, I need you to listen to this right now. And I'll just be like, oh, it's funny.
But like, "What's Up" is so good.
Well, okay, yeah, tell me more.
I just had no idea, like, because you hear that song, it like comes on at parties,
Right.
and it's like literally like the lyrics are 25 years and my life is still trying to get up that great big hill of hope for a destination. I realized quickly when I knew I should that the world was made up of this brotherhood of man, for whatever that means. And so I cry sometimes when I'm lying in bed just to get it all out what's in my head, and I'm feeling a little peculiar. And so I wake up in the morning and I step outside and I take a deep breath and I get real high and I scream from the top of my lungs, what's going on? And I try, oh my God, do I try? I try all the time in this institution, and I pray, oh my God, do I pray? I pray every single day for a revolution. And like, people
Wow.
just like
Yeah.
sing that at parties. They're
Right,
like, oh, what a
right.
fun, like goofy ass weird song. And it's like,
Damn. Yeah, that's fucking
it's just
crazy.
everything.
When
I
you
don't even
just
want to
say
like
it.
dive into it too
No,
much. Like
yeah,
you just
yeah.
have to like read the lyrics and
Totally.
like, if anybody's like at all
Yes.
listening to what the fuck
Yes.
you're saying, and then they're like, oh my God.
That's a very good cheesy that you find inspiring, I feel like.
Isn't that funny
Yeah,
though that
that's
like
fucking
that
crazy.
song is so good and like
Yeah, there are
what's
songs
her
like that.
what's her name? The Linda Perry
Uh-huh.
wrote that song, and like she used to like I think it might be in that video, but she has like Dyke spray painted on her guitar and like
Yeah.
all this stuff, and you just like I don't know, it's fucking crazy.
Yeah,
It's
that's
so
awesome.
good. It's such a good song, and like her voice is amazing and
Sometimes
stuff.
I think that about like pop songs in the 90s and even the 80s and stuff. Sometimes like you hear them again and you're like, I can't fucking believe this was pop music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We did that. We were listening what was the band? What was the one that was like that live version of Portishead maybe?
Oh, yeah. I can't remember which song it was.
But it was like, you're just like, this was like popular music to some degree. Like it was on,
yeah.
like the alternative
It charted,
stations
yeah.
or whatever. Yeah, chart. Yeah, exactly. And you hear it and you're just like, shit is so different now. Like if you listen to like Fiona Apple and shit like that, and you're like, Fiona Apple was like popular for a second. And you're
Yeah.
like, the lyrics, it's crazy. It's really crazy.
I don't think it's that different.
You don't? I'm a sick fuck. Yeah, like quick fuck.
Hey, that song
I'm just
is
kidding.
great.
I'm just kidding. I love that song.
Don't fuck. Don't shit. What?
No, I do love that shit. I have serious feelings about that shit, actually. When people are like, listen how bad this shit is, like, I think, I don't know. It's hard to explain, like,
It's the same. It's
I
the
don't mean
same thing as
excuse-
like just fucking like listen. People aren't listening to it because it's like
right. No, I'm very much in general, like in poetry
Vulgar.
stuff, I like love repetition a lot. And also, I do think there's a quality of like, I don't know, like the Beatles. Like if you listen to Beatles stuff, sometimes like it's not good, but
Yeah.
like in the context of they've done really good things, it becomes interesting. Like
Yeah.
why would they choose to do this then? You know?
it's also art isn't like the qualities that make art good are like it's mirror like
Right.
qualities.
Right. I do think that's true.
And like that's a huge fucking mirror, that song. I mean, maybe not. That song's a little bit of fun. That song's a little bit of fun.
But I think there's like, I guess what I'm just trying to say about the 80s, 90s thing, I don't think I'm romanticizing, is like, there was this period of movie history when you could like sell a script. Like you could sell a spec script like for a lot of money. Like a good script would come out and people would be like, we got to all bid on this script. And that doesn't really happen anymore. And even if I remember seeing like Encino Man or something and watching it and being like, this movie's structured really well. Like, you know what I mean? And there's something about like this craft of this like of like lyrics of like that is like taken for granted. That was just part of pop songs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see it. I mean, everything's definitely been like much more like cynically commercialized
Yeah.
now. I mean, it's only gotten like worse and worse every year, pretty much. I mean, we're at a point where like all of our political activism is done through like big companies. You know, like products are just like co-opting like movements,
Yeah.
and it's like.
Yeah. Hopefully some of them mean it at some point, and then we can have like cool like war or something, you know? Like that where there's actual like money to back up the.
Yeah, I guess.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm mostly kidding, but I'm just saying that because I mean, not to be cynical again, and like it's not even cynical, it's just dark. But like, as much as wars are and the basically the decisions made for the common person are decided by like billionaires who can make those decisions because they control the means of production and stuff like that, is like basically I think the best hope is like that you get people who are earnestly interested in the betterment of society. But like frankly, like I don't know, I'm sure there's fucked up shit about them, but it seems to me, on the surface at least, Bill Gates spending a lot of money to not try to like create fake sexy problems, like fix fake sexy problems like going to Mars or whatever.
Yeah.
But like instead to like try to like fix like real diseases that still plague a lot of the world that would be easy to ignore. This seems like noble to me. And like you need some people who like have access to the resources to decide that they want to get on board in fighting the other people who have resources. You know?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess. I just it kind of reminds me of like, you know, around all the time of the like Richard Spencer like Nazi punching and stuff, and like a lot of, I think even I was like sharing like image macros of just like little memes that I made of like soldiers like storming the beach of Normandy and stuff, and then it's like I don't know, we like romanticize World War II is like we went over there to like liberate, you know,
right. Well, we talk about
these oppressed people, and it's like we didn't get involved in World War II to liberate shit.
Right. We did it to make money.
And you had all kinds of, you had Prescott Bush selling oil to the Nazis and like this and that, and that became a long running like political dynasty, obviously. You know.
Yeah. But there's like a I know it's an id pleasure to talk about like the violent revolution that you're going to have for the force of good, but it's inherently like impossible.
Yeah.
We talk about that, like the fantasy of like, you know, you're executing your political opponents at the end of finally having the revolution happen, these evil people. But the truth is that you would just go, no, that's what you get to go home. Like you get to just go, we're just going to fix things for all the, you still get what everyone else gets. You get universal health care and just get to live and enjoy the rest of your life. We're going to fix all the problems you created. Yeah. You know, that it wouldn't be like chopping their heads off and stuff like that. And some, I agree. I guess this is on the heels of it. And it's what's something dark about you is the fourth question. And we're moving kind of slow. So we can like skirt over it. Something dark about you.
We can skirt right over that. Something dark about me. Something dark about me. Well, I don't want to admit to any crimes on.
No, you don't have to do
I'm
that.
just kidding.
You don't have to be kidding.
No, I know. The only crime that I'm aware of is like pirating software.
Yeah.
You know,
it's hard to feel like that's actually a crime, you know?
I guess. I'm starting to see it.
I see it. I definitely see it, and I buy software now. I mean, I used to like pirate more shit.
Yeah.
I can't not. Like, I mean,
I guess you really have to like give a shit about like you really have to give a shit about capitalism to like think of it as like particularly heinous, you know?
I know. It's more though like I do believe in like supporting things that help me.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, so like I know under the circumstance of capitalism, it's like I'm going to do my best to.
Oh yeah, I'm going to pay for Jack Ryan when I rent it later.
I'm definitely paying for
Jack. I'm going to turn up the red on the hue lights a little bit.
I also feel like you admitted a lot of stuff that we've been very dark this whole podcast. So I feel like it's good for us to like.
No, I mean,
I don't mean like, it doesn't have to be like you know what I mean? It's not like bad stuff you do.
I get it. No, I'm kidding.
I just feel like we spend a lot of, in this podcast we don't, because we're pretty open about our darkness.
Well,
I think I'm just, you know, we skirt over. We only focus on like good things, and I think it's important to go like, well, here's the thing.
Well, I think I'm very hypocritical.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, that's a good one.
About like all of my personal politics and everything, and I struggle with that often. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like the more you know about like the less ignorant you are to like things being bad, the more you realize like how hypocritical you are, and so you feel worse about it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, ignorance really is bliss in that sense.
There's somebody, I think it was with Lisa Schwartz on this podcast, actually. She came with this thing about like basically approaching people in the world with curiosity instead of judgment. Like if somebody does anything, instead of going like, oh, that's fucked up, you go like, well, why do they do that? You know, or whatever.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's very kind of her.
I think so, but I also think it's necessary. Like, because, and if it's true curiosity, like how else are we going to understand how to not have that happen again or whatever? So if it is something like just bad, but it also is important in like in your self-reflection, and like you don't really gain anything from like judgment.
Yeah.
You gain from curiosity, and that there's an inherent like delight in curiosity and like just the way you interact with it. And those, I really do think it's as binary as that. Like those are two clear opposite options in like dealing with whatever comes your way. Do I like, judge it, or do I wonder about it? And I think about a lot of our darknesses, it's more valuable to like be like, huh, that's funny that I'm like that. Not to like let it off the hook, but to be like, why? Oh, that's interesting. You know, so human of me to do these things instead of just be like, so fucking human. Fuck, I gotta be fucking better than this thing. That like, it's just part of you.
Yeah.
You know, just like acknowledging, you're just realizing that your feelings just are what they are. And sometimes they're like bad. You know, they're like, oh, this is a bad feeling to have. But it's also like, it just is there. So like, what are you gonna just pretend it's not there? You can make efforts to not let it dictate things you do. But I think it's more helpful and, you know, maybe healthy even to like allow, approach it with like, oh, that's a thing in me that's real. Huh. You know? I don't know. Hypocrisy is definitely like a favorite vice.
Yeah.
All right, good one. We're almost there. What's the last gorgeous thing you saw?
The last gorgeous thing I saw.
Gorgeous thing you saw.
Gorgeous.
That is one of our. Well, that's gorgeous.
You, when you walked into the door and
thank you.
You know, said hello, and we hugged and we got caught up on our week. That was very nice.
That was nice. Thank
Erin,
you.
when she walked in the door.
Yeah. I know, we laughed about it immediately.
Brought some groceries in. Yeah.
I was gonna say, what about the teaser for the new Odyssey mode in the new PvE mode coming out on League of Legends? You know?
Oh, I didn't see that.
A whole bunch of new
I didn't
skins.
see that.
So yeah, friendship, or you know.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and talk about patch 2.73 of League of Legends.
Well, thank you. That's good. Thank you. I'll accept that. All right, this is the last one. And this is actually very appropriate to today, which is apparently, according to the hashtag, National Suicide Prevention Day.
Yeah.
I always end with this. I have my Don't Kill Yourself list, which is, if you haven't listened before, is like a thing where I started when I was in a really dark place in my life. It's just a list of things that are generally accessible and undeniably wonderful things that I'd be like, this is good, this is good, this is good. These are things you don't get to ever experience again if you die, if you kill yourself. So I always start it with coffee, sandwiches, and lavender soap.
Oh.
And I feel like I would like you to add whatever you want to.
See, I can only really think of people.
Really?
Which I don't want to just give a whole bunch of lists of names.
No, you don't have to do that. I think that's enough to just say like people that are important to you.
Yeah, people that are important to me. And not just people in my personal life, but like artists that I really admire. And like, yeah, like I like to wake up and just watch like YouTube videos of like interviews of artists that I really adore and respect, and like that's really important to me, and that kind of helps me survive, I guess. And then of course the people in my personal life, and like seeing them like prosper and feel good, and that's really important to me. I mean, it's funny, music isn't like, or like the tools for creating music aren't like that high on the list. I would be bummed if I couldn't sing. I've been able to sing for like the past week.
Yeah.
And it's been...
Because you're cold and stuff?
Yeah. And it's been like annoying, but it's also been fun too, because like I did that session with Jason the other day, and I just like, I basically just played guitar and
Yeah.
like kind of dictated
Yeah.
what was going on. That was fun. Then like making a few beats. I do miss it. Hopefully this is the last day of like sounding like this.
It's funny because you don't sound that different to me. Like
Yeah.
it might feel like more in your head resonating
I
different.
can feel it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I can tell. I mean, I can tell you like because you were sniffling and stuff. I can tell you feel a little stuffy, but it's interesting. The instrument. The human instrument.
So
Do you have a specific
home state.
Home state's so fucking good.
It's so fucking good.
It's like the home state's a taco place near us. In case anybody's listening,
It's very good.
if you
very
live
good.
near LA,
It's so funny to say like authentic Tex-Mex,
yeah.
but that's what it is, and
what
it's
it
very
is.
good. It's
What,
all wrapped in foil.
Do you have a
Delicious.
specific, just any, like one specific of those of an artist interview that you'd recommend watching?
I watch a lot of David Lynch, of course, just because he's so like
Yeah.
pleasant and like Midwest, just funny, just so funny.
Did you see that video a while ago about him talking about cell phones, about movies on your cell phone?
Yeah, he's like, you can't
Yeah.
watch it on your fucking iPhone.
Somebody,
It's so good.
Somebody edited that a while ago into like they added like the iPhone, like they added like music under it, like the same as iPhone, and then it goes
yeah.
iPhone like at the end of it or whatever. But I just love that. I think about that all the time. He's like the idea that you'd watch a movie on your fucking telephone.
iPhone.
It's so, on your fucking telephone. It's so funny.
It's amazing.
It's a good one.
So like him, lately I've been watching a bunch of Paula Poundstone. You remember her?
No.
She's a comedian.
I think I recognize her. I
80s,
think I've got
90s.
the picture in my head, but I've never seen her.
She did a voice in like, remember that show Home Movies?
No,
It's like
I don't actually.
it's really good.
Really? Was it animation or was it?
Yeah, animated. But yeah, Paula Poundstone's really funny and just like quick. There's like a recent interview with her and Colbert, and she's just like, he can't keep up with her.
Ah, cool.
Which I've never
seen that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you watch that clip? Did you watch that one, the Colbert thing I sent you recently, about where he talked about Silmarillion and stuff?
No, I
Okay,
didn't.
I'm gonna
I
make you
didn't
watch it
that.
after this because it's just delightful.
Who else? I mean, I was listening to a lot of David Foster Wallace stuff, like the stuff that isn't his like creative writing, and I don't know. He's all right.
Yeah.
He's very problematic,
Yeah.
but I relate to that in a lot of ways.
In what ways? What do you mean?
Just in a lot of like his just like icky feelings and
Yeah.
thoughts.
I think that's why I like Kanye so much, or I'm like a Kanye apologist or whatever. Because I relate to a lot of his icky feelings that he expresses.
I don't even think his feelings are that icky.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think
Maybe they're just very. Maybe not. Maybe they're just base.
yeah.
They're like they just feel so honest.
I'm
And, like,
definitely not as much of a like he definitely drinks the Kool-Aid in a lot of ways. It's like the whole thing of like how like Jay-Z and Beyonce are like royalty
right.
and how like I don't know, just this like celebrity royalty culture is like very toxic and stuff, and like I feel like Kanye like really like believes in that and like feeds into it
Sure.
and like loves
I
it,
agree with that.
and it's all about like I don't know, just like personal excellence and stuff. I don't know. That's why I don't.
What's the David Foster
It's like
Wallace
I don't fuck with a lot of like athletes and stuff either, where it's just this like I'm gonna be a champion and I'm gonna be the best. It's like not their fault. Like that's how they that's how they achieve excellence and
I
like
think that's
become
why
the best. And
I
like
like so many fight sports, MMA athletes, because I don't feel this way about boxers, because like I don't feel this way about Mayweather, who's a piece of shit person and an undefeated boxer, but like would get fucking wrecked if he did MMA. Like I think inherent to the sport of MMA is being destroyed. Like Nobody who's done MMA, if you've done any grappling at all, like at some point in your life, you've been completely helpless, like, and truly felt that in like a really intense way. And I think it changed. Like, there's a lot more nowadays. There is more and more of like that I don't like to the sport of like that. I think a lot of people like the sport too, don't like about it, which is like this, like, you know, press conference, like pro wrestling stuff. Like, we got to talk shit and like be these characters. Like Conor McGregor, like pushed that a lot and whatever, because he made it such an art form, like getting in people's heads and fucking with them or whatever.
Yeah.
But like I saw this clip this morning of like this fight just happened between these two guys. Tyrone Woodley and Darren Till. They fought for like a belt, and Darren Till's this guy who's like undefeated and got beat for the first time and like lost the match. And there's this footage of them like backstage after the fight, and Tyrone Woodley's like, they go up to each other and they're just smiling, and he's like hugs him and he's like talks to him and he's like, gotta lose sometime, man. He's like, I know how it felt. I was undefeated going into my first title fight and I got beat, and you don't lose. It's like you lose, you learn. That's like all it is. And you see them like communicating in like a meaningful way after just like literally trying to kill each other, you know?
Yeah.
And there's something inherently different to me in that sport. Like, you don't get the shit beat out of you in basketball. You don't get the shit beat, you know, arguably in football, but like it's so specific and precise and like blunt force, like the game of like fighting and like what it is and being one-on-one and having like there's something about it that like, I don't know, I feel like it's inherently humbling on some level. Like, it's inherently like humanizing, and you have to deal with your own fallibility and death so much.
Yeah.
That I like it. I like, you know, feel that sport a lot more than I feel like certain other sports, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't mean to go off on like a thing about that, but
No. I don't know. I don't know anything about fighting.
what's the Foster Wallace stuff that's like squicky? That's like weird, do you think? That are bad feelings?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm just not that familiar with him, you know?
I don't know. I don't want to get into it
Sure.
too much because it's just like, I mean, just think about it. He's a white male intellectual in like the 90s.
Oh, like that kind of
He's a
stuff?
piece of shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
Oh yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. It's like humanizes. I don't know. That's what we were talking about near the beginning, though. Is I think like if you don't acknowledge the bad parts of yourself, like you'll never be able to like. I don't know. I feel like they become an invisible hand within you that guides you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether in defiance of them or in accordance with their wishes, unless you like interact with them and dialogue with them, you can't. So when you see an artist who's like will talk about it, like will somehow express it like truly, it like allows you to look at it outside of yourself and like deal with it.
Yeah. And that's important.
I guess I feel that way about like Juno Diaz's book or whatever, that This Is How You Lose Her book, and some of these like books about like hellish men, basically.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
lovesick hellish men. Because you're just like, oh, well, I'm glad somebody else is like processing this in a way that allows me to also like identify it and process it. So
Yeah.
so I hopefully don't like continue just acting it out in my life, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess that's it. Thank you for being on my good bad brain. There's some good shit in this one.
What a note to end on.
No, I don't think that
No,
was
I'm
a good note to end
kidding. I'm
on,
kidding.
because I was thinking too about like the last David Foster Wallace reference came up to me was like in our texts, in the group text, and Kyle did that like description. Kyle like wrote some description of like going to something.
Was it the Ren Fair?
It was
It was
something like that.
Something funny.
And we were
yeah.
just like, this has a very David Foster Wallace quality to it, and it's just like, I don't know. My favorite thing that came out of this whole talk was this thing about like the realization of the very real truth that you feel other people's happiness.
Yeah.
That like somebody can try to cynically take from you all day long and go like, well, really, it's just making you feel good. But you're like, no. There's a fundamental difference between I do something nice and it makes me feel good, and somebody else is happy. And and I'm not feeling my happiness, I'm feeling their happiness.
Yeah.
And our ability to do that with each other is so profound to realize, because that like really reinforces an interconnectedness between us.
Yeah.
It makes doing this podcast mean more, and like everything that we try to do to make other people happy or feel good things is like it so immediately has like an exponential potential to it, that like it'll just carry off and keep going. And I think the same way you can feel other people's pain. And like we shut ourselves. It's possible that when we realize as young people, or maybe as a society, this has become a value of like that when you realize that you can feel other people's pain, it just becomes easier on some level to numb yourself to that pain.
Yeah.
Which also means that you're going to numb yourself to the happiness. That you also won't be able to feel other people's happiness. And it results in this like isolated, like cruel society. But if you start allowing that you can feel other people's pain and you can feel their happiness and like opening up to that, like you really can. And maybe that gets back to our first thing in the first place about like this feeling of the world has so much bad shit in it. What are you going to like pretend it's not there? Well, the more you pretend that's not there, the more you're going to also deny the ability to feel the happiness of other people. And only if we like feel that and like continue to cultivate that and create that, like that is the thing that will maybe save us, you know, of just making that a value. How can we create more joy for others?
I hope.
Yeah. So we'll end on that one.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, Koda.
Thanks for having me.
All right. People can find your music everywhere. Just Google Koda. Do you want to give a specific name?
No, that's good.
They'll find you.
Yeah.
All right. Bye. All right. Thank you so much for listening to My Good Bad Brain. Be back next week with another. It should just be a brain breather next week. Yeah. And I hope you dug it. I think I got some other interviews scheduled. That'll be fun. So we'll get back into those with regularity. And yeah, that's all. Thanks for joining us. Check us out on patreon.com/mygoodbadbrain. Review us. 5 stars preferably. Have a good day. Bye.